and tried some amps, and those are like high gain amps, which was like, yeah, cool, but it's not into it anymore. And then they were like, hey, try the Dynamis. It's like, Dynamis? Yes, like a best clean sounding amp with a gain channel, but you don't have to use it. And it's like, okay, try it out. And I plugging in my TS-808 into it, clean channel, crystal clear. And I was like, that's the sound I never enjoyed. It's like not, you know, that's not the nicest sound of a tube screamer. And I thought, okay, wow. And then I tried other pedals and I was like, okay, take my money, I'm good. You know, it's like a medium size format, 40 watts, stupidly loud, of course, but it starts to break up just above 9 o'clock, which is like, whoa, way early, but it's a usable volume. It's like really loud stage volume, and it's like I am for now. What was the word the Japanese saying?
Latoriaizu.
Yeah, that's my Latoriaizu amp for now.
All right, so here it goes. I own a lot of amps. I think a lot of people know that. So the ones I go to more often than not, a Black Widow. And basically it's a 2U with a lot of different selectable options, but the sound, modern day ADA MP1. It just sounds really good, and even with my demos, I really like a tube amp, and I think one of the sessions are going to be tube versus modeling. So I use some modeling, but mostly for effects, less for the modeling, like a HX effects type of thing. But the Black Widow for my demos. Now, outside of the demos, I like to play some other stuff as well. So Pete, you had mentioned your Sir. So I have a pre-Sir custom audio amplifier, OD100. Phenomenal amp, which is probably along the same lines of your signature series.
Very similar to Clean Channel.
Yeah, just phenomenal amp. I bought 2 amps recently in this past year, also phenomenal, are a Supro Black Magic, phenomenal amp. I bought a Friedman PT20, phenomenal amp. And the one that takes them all, I have a Soldano Reverbo Sonic. That is a beyond phenomenal amp. So much so that when I got it, I actually called Mike Soldano, and I'm like, dude, I think I just heard the best amp of my life. You know, it was that good. But again, it's interesting because I don't always play the, like I'm not always plugging into the custom audio. I'm not always plugging into the Soldano. I save those for special occasions. But a lot of airtime is really with like the Black Widow, just because it's track mount that's behind me. It's set exactly where I need it to be. But I would say those are the top ones for me. Did that answer the question?
I can't even remember the question. But I would say yes.
We seem to have gone on the what are our favorite amps?
I got lost for a second with the technical difficulty.
There you go.
I've got a team of people working on it right now.
All right, here you go.
I have another bass player answer for you, and that is
SVT all the time.
almost. SCRDI to front of house to in-ear monitors.
There you go.
I want to be a bass player.
It's good.
Well, my bass player has recently stopped using an on-stage cabinet, and I love him, but that drives me crazy because, I mean, I've got the in-ears too, but I don't want the bass in my ears. I want the bass. Really, vocals are the only thing in my ears for the most part, so I can't hear it. I have to trust the front of house. Can't hear that, so now I'm thinking the whole time the bass isn't even, we need a cabinet up here. Anyway, late last year. Oh, why? Because he got really awesome earbuds that have like a driver, and he's like, but hear it, it sounds amazing. Like, yeah, but mine have 2 drivers in them, and I'm not putting your bass in. Anyway, he's a lovely gentleman. Hope he's watching. Chuck. Next question. This might work good. I'm glad this came up because when you mentioned the Rocket Archer, we argue about clones and this is from Amstrat Nut, maybe American Strat Nut, I guess. We argue about clones and copies of this and that. Is it okay to copy another's work, design, etc.? If so, where are the lines drawn? I think kind of what he's meaning is you can read threads where, you know, people will really pile on. because it's fun to do and it's fun to read. It's not that fun to do for me. You know, but like the Timmy pedal, when it started getting cloned by everybody, everyone was up in arms. Like this is a robbery. But when the Klon gets cloned anytime, or it's not a very good one, but nobody says you shouldn't be doing that. So where do you draw the line? I guess. I mean, me personally, I don't. I just move on and let everything be everything, because we can all find a tube screamer or a big muff circuit in there somewhere, just improved or changed or whatever. But personal thoughts, and feel free to say whatever you truly think about it, please.
Speaking as someone who's seen a lot of overdrives and fuzzes, I mean, it's hard to say whether anyone owns any circuit, or I mean, you know what I mean? I think for me, and you know, it could be it could be another PT2399 delay. Well, as long as you change something to make it unique, you know, put a sensor on it that reacts to light, or you know, or something, you know, interesting graphics, make it your own, change the tone stack. As long as it's just not a flat out, you know, copy of something just to kind of make money quickly, you know, I think, yeah, it's all about integrity, and people can see that in a quality design. You know, if it's somebody's circuit board that you painted over, I mean, that's a little bit, that's the robbery right there. Yeah.
No, all of them are green anyhow. That's right. They don't even overcolor it.
So yeah, that's about all I have to say to that. I think people just, I mean, people get really protective over circuits, which is a strange thing. But we also have to, I mean, we have to improve on things from the past too. So I mean, I think there's only so many circuits from the 60s and 70s, and we got to start there, and then maybe work to the future. So I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but here you go, Pete.
No, I think I basically have the same opinion. I mean, I think it's a matter of ethics, kind of where okay, to get a patent is what, like in the U.S., probably $30,000 or something like that at the end of the day. So it's like, are you going to do that for your overdrive pedal? So no. You're right about the Klon, though. The Klon's an interesting one in that nobody really complains about the clones, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he quit making them. And so it's like, well, you can't. He's not selling anymore anyway. So probably designers were like, well, we'll just make it though. So that's probably got something to do with it. But look at the Tube Screamer. I mean, how many Tube Screamers is there out there? So why does one pedal get copied and others, oh, that's sacrilegious or whatever? I don't know. I think it's all about taste. Like with amplifiers, I mean, my amp's basically we come right out and say it's American style drive. I mean, everybody knows where it's coming from. It's just got little tweaks that make it unique and better to us, you know? It's all a recipe. But I do think that there's something to, like, if somebody comes out with a new design and it's out for a year, maybe two, give the guy a minute to, like, you know what I mean? To make, if he's got a cool, like the Klon or something. Yeah. Nobody was copying Klons when they first came out. And, you know, he sold a whole bunch of them back in the 90s. And then he stopped. A long time went by. People started making them again. And I think that that's probably fine. It's like, is there a problem with that? You know, if it's like he doesn't even make it anymore, it's like, you know. But yeah, give him a minute. Give it a couple years, 3 years before you copy the, you know, the thing and then come out with your own version. And if you do, maybe make something, change a couple values, make your own thing, put a couple other features. The Bondi was a nice version of the Klon. It's basically a Klon circuit, but with a bass and a treble control and a two-way switch. Change the voicing a bit. Yeah, switch it up a bit. Do something unique with it and make some, you know. But I contradict because I use an Archer and I think it's pretty close to. But it sounds good. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's hard to begin with. There's ridiculously, you know, a really ridiculous amount of pedals out there, and many are like TS-type pedals and Klon-style pedals, and, you know, Red-style pedals and big, you know. And still, I never ever heard a pedal that's kind of a sort of like a, you know, a reissue or something of for instance, a Klon or something that sounded exactly the same. So right? It's like an Archer. It's not a Klon.
I tried one once that I did a back-to-back with a good Klon, and This was with, it's a clone that I won't name, but I plugged, and I was like, it's going to sound the same, and you're right, it didn't. And I was like, I didn't want to like the clone more, but I actually did, and I was like, ah, shit, because it's like I wanted to, I wanted the new one to be just as, but actually it had a little something. And I heard it, and other people in the room when I was doing it heard it, went, it's got a little more, and I was like, it's just like, it's like.
It's the enclosure.
Yeah, it must be.
It's just the looks. No. So the thing is, if it's, as Andy told, like, if it's your take on something, you know, if Robert Keeley says, I'm going to be, you know, making something that's kind of Jupe Screamery, it will never ever sound like a Jupe Screamer. It will have that kind of take, and, you know, that kind of approach of this mid-hump and everything, but it's going to be a pedal that sounds like a Keeley pedal. And if, like the brand new Pantheon, you guys probably know about it, Brian Wampler. Brought it, which is something like a blues driver, kind of a blues breaker, sorry, and this King of Tone kind of vibe. And yeah, probably you can tweak it that it sounds like a King of Tone, but it has way more gain. It's smaller. It's, you know, it's all different. You have different knobs and everything. It's just his take on it. So why not kind of seeing it as a custom shop? And yeah, if it's just a ripoff, just to make it cheaper and make money, I will not buy it. It's okay, probably, it's, you know, it's all good and it's legal and everything, but buy it because I respect the original maker as long as I can get it and it's not like $5,000 like a clone or something. Right. Because that's like, nah.
Well, the other thing is they're like $2,000 now or whatever they are.
So it's awesome. I'm not a collector. I want to play it. I don't want to, you know, have shaky, sweaty hands, you know, every evening because I don't want someone to just grab it and run. You know?
Right. Yeah, a club or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I agree with what everyone said here, but what's not cool is counterfeit, like outright copies, even the logo. I think that's really important, and there's a lot of product out there that is, seeing more of it, is counterfeit product, and that's not cool, especially when that winds up on a used market and someone unsuspectingly buys something thinking it may be the real thing. With that said, you know, you said a lot of important words: integrity, taking ownership, right? Putting your label on the headstock. And I think for the player, it's really important for the company to say, hey, this is my, you know, again, integrity. I was inspired. I also, what I look for in a product like that is, okay, cool. What have you done differently? Like you said, to improve it. Maybe you did like some asymmetrical clipping versus an original that didn't have, you know, something different. And I think that's what makes it exciting as well. So as long as there's transparency and integrity and you're owning up to what you're doing, I think that's okay. Counterfeit, not okay.
Copy that.
I agree. I think we're all on the same page. And something that has been nice to see is that when counterfeits or blatant rehousings have come up, the market has spoken and just said, that's not cool, we don't like that, and shun you.
All right. Cheap Guitars asks about up-and-coming builders. Some of the favorite sleeper pedals, different things. You know, once again, not that I ever get bored with overdrives or fuzzes. I never do. I like every single one of them, I think. But, you know, every once in a while something comes in, it's like, wow, here's something different. And for me, in fact, I just saw at the hotel the little, that was so nice. Thank you, Ove. That was beautiful. I hope everybody else got one. Wow, that might have just been really bad. Oh, yeah, these guys are who I would have named when I saw this question. First ones that came to mind, Game Changer Audio, who are here at GitCon, which is great. I look forward to meeting them. You know, their pedal, the Plus pedal, I mean, that is unique. It's new. It's different. I mean, what it does is similar. There's a couple of other things that do it, whether it be a loop or a feedback buster type of, or, I mean, super feedbacker sort of deal. But the application of it is so cool. And now they've got this new fuzz pedal coming out that's got like the thing from Back to the Future. What's that called?
Yeah. Plasma?
The flux capacitor. Or some, I don't know. What's called the plasma.
Doubles as a taser.
Right, and a strobe light. It's like your own personal strobe. Anyway, so that would be mine. You know, up and comer, new favorite builder until I get back home and open up the box of my next new favorite builder. But I think those guys are great, so that'd be a good one for everyone to answer. Sleeper or favorite? Different.
Yeah, man, there's so many up and coming.
Bondi was a good
Yeah, well, I was just spending a lot of time with the Red Panda, Andy here, the other Andy, and the Tensor, I think, because it just made me rethink how I'm gonna play guitar, and it made me rethink time, because now I'm thinking backwards and I'm thinking slowing down, and I'm thinking, if you guys don't know, it's a pedal that basically mimics a tape deck slowing down, and then you have full control and you could speed it back up. And so I was thinking about all the old songs like Jethro Tull and stuff that used backwards solos, and Hendrix obviously, and even just the effect of the tape slowing down at the very end on some of those old records. I think maybe like you heard it on some Van Halen stuff, it just goes. But yeah, I think that's one that really kind of got, kind of opened my eyes, and that wasn't in the same category as what we've been seeing lately. And those kind of, it seems lately that category is hard to nail. Something that really just jumps out and stands, like the plasma pedal or I think that. And then there's a sleeper pedal that I've always wanted to talk about. It's not very new at all. It was actually discontinued, but I think it kind of deserves some little bit of mention. Is this Fryette SAS pedal? It has a EF86 tube in it, and it never really caught on. I don't know the story behind it. Maybe I'm not, some of you guys that might know Fryette, but it's basically like a Neil Young sort of sagging tube sound, all in, it's got a bias knob on it. So I always like getting distortion and overdrive without a lot of, just traditional clipping. If there's, hopefully the tube in there is doing something. But to me, it sounds like it's something interesting, especially EF86 tubes are kind of a rare thing. It's always 12AX7. maybe not yet. Yeah. They are temperamental. I know when Vox put them in there, then the hand-wired ones. But yeah, it's just maybe maybe I just got lucky and got a tube. But yeah, so I don't know. That's my kind of two tricks, I think.
I can think of three. The one a couple years ago that I loved was the BAE Hot Fuzz, and I use that a lot. So it's like a silicon fuzz, but with a treble booster too. So you can do either or both, which is insane sounding. The treble booster and the fuzz is just to die for. It sounds killer. Super fat. The Dry Bell Unit 67, which I just did a video on my channel. It's like a magic, make everything better. It's like an 1176 style compressor, coupled with EQ circuit that has a bass and treble, but a Rangemaster style mid boost. Sounds amazing. Put it in front of anything, and it just sounds like it just brings the amp to life. And add a little bit. You can use the compression even in front of dirt. Yes, it raises the noise floor a bit, but it just makes everything sound better. It sounds amazing. Crazy Tube Circuits is the other company. Everything I've tried, those guys that they're in Greece, and they just geniuses with the. So good. The Starlight Fuzz is the fuzz for everybody that doesn't like fuzz. It's more like, it sounds like a distortion, really, like kind of like a fat, like distortion low, but then as you turn it up, you go, oh, it is fuzz. But it's like a real nice fuzz that you can, use as a, yeah. And I heard his delay recently. I'm not going to forget the name of it, at Guitar Summit here in Germany. And it was like a four-head tape style delay. And it is the most delicious, amazing sounding thing in stereo with this dark four-head kind of delay doing different taps, and it just sounded spacious and amazing, like into 2 amps. So those are my picks.
Korg Miku.
That's a good one.
Well, not really. I mean, that's really funny, but no. Kind of. The groundbreaker for me was, no surprise, the TS-808. So that's for me like the pedal that started it all, which is I think a very normal thing. I think like 90% of us just started out with it, which makes sense. But before that, I didn't really care too much. I did own an original 90s Metal Zone. Then I sold it, and I didn't touch any pedals anymore because I was really disappointed. And then I started using gain from the amp, and I was like, yeah, I love my amp, but it's kind of, not fast enough, and the palm mutes are not at all good. And then DS808, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, so.
Tighten up with the dirty amp.
Exactly. Especially like, rectifier, something like the, 90s, 2000 kind of high gain amps. They kind of need a little help, which is not very relevant anymore, but still, like ask Ola Englund, he uses a gain pedal right in front of his stupidly high gain, awesome amp gain sound. So it's still a thing, And I think that started it all. So that's, for me, like, closest to my heart. And other than that, I think the Ego compressor, Brian Wampler.
Good one.
That's like the most beautiful clean sound I ever heard, and the pedal is so subtle. You can set it to a sound to a point where you really they don't even feel that you have a compressor on. No one will recognize it, because the player feels it way earlier than the listener if a compressor is on. And you can set it so subtle, it just gives some rich, nice, I don't know, it opens your sound up, which is really cool, and you can squash the hell out of it, of course, if you overdo it, which is fun. Yeah, and you can use it as a clean boost, you can use it as a, crazy John Frusciante kind of, squashy sound. You can just use it to get more sustain. That's my savior.
So when I think of sleepers, I think of a few companies out there. One of them is Amp Tweaker. Amp Tweaker is popular among certain groups, but I wouldn't say it's as popular as Boss.
James Brown.
James Brown. I just had him on a live show of mine a few weekends ago, and let me tell you, first of all, he's a phenomenal person. He's just a wonderful person. For those that don't know, he was the 5150 designer. And his pedals are amazing. He and his wife build the pedals. Okay, so there's a story behind it. It is. He hand builds the pedals. They're built like tanks. And he just came out with a pedal, the Depth Finder, which takes the 5150 presence and resonance circuit, which is part of the power amp section. That's actually a big feature of a 5150 6505. Came up with a little pedal to put in the effects loop of any amp, and it just opens it up. Really just a tremendous pedal. But that's I think of Amp Tweaker as a sleeper company where it's very niche. It's not as mainstream as some of the bigger companies, and the products are phenomenal. Another company that is VFE pedals. He's a mad scientist. I mean, you talk about like integrity and transparency. He talks about every little tweak and nuance and why he built it. And it's just really a pleasure to walk through the journey of playing one of his pedals. And again, very small, very niche, but just truly wonderful pedals. And then my HM2 that I just picked up.
Hey now. That is
so
a
there
sleeper.
It is.
Not necessarily a sleeper, but definitely an up-and-comer. I'd say is the Maris, and specifically the Enzo. I think that's pretty sweet, especially being a bass synth pedal junkie, or just synth pedal junkie in general, and the capabilities of that thing being polyphonic and the tones that you can get out of it, and it's just sounding like a real, true, pure synth, not synth-like, but synth. I'd say that's definitely going to be getting more popular.
Cool.
Enzo.
The Enzo.
Like a Ferrari Enzo.
Sweet. This next question is from Gearman Dude, believe it or not. He wants to know, before Mount Everest was discovered, what was the tallest mountain on Earth? Go.
Is this pedal related? Is this
Kilimanjaro.
I would say Kilimanjaro.
was it K2? Yeah, I'm gonna go K2. Yeah.
It's called K2 probably is the second. So, guessing?
It was actually still Mount Everest. Just because it hadn't been discovered didn't mean it wasn't the tallest. I'm just trying to, take a little side step there. Seriously though. This one's from Jay Moose. Might be cool, blah, 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 blah. Talk about reliability, putting together a solid board, how to keep it working, what to do, backup plans if and when things hit fan, which is great. Basically board maintenance and backup plan, assembling a board. I mean, great question for Pete, who's putting miles and miles, but then the rest of us are all out playing too. And I mean, I don't take care of my stuff at all, and I just throw it in the car, and I don't see it again until the next gig. And anyway, that's actually a really good question.
Yeah, that's. I'd be interested to hear what Pete says too. But at least from my experience, I think just taking care of your stuff goes a long way, especially with like patch cables or just any cables in general. Knowing how to wind them, so they just don't get twisted. Also, a good backup for power is like some of those new lithium-ion packs, and you could, kind of, if your power supply goes out, you could just power the whole board. I mean, that's amazing stuff that wasn't around when I was 15, and of course, if the power goes out, I imagine your amp's not going to have any power either. So maybe you're one of those stationary bikes that you could power. Yeah, exactly.
Those lithium power packs actually solve a lot of problems too with noise.
Oh, right.
So those are really good if you want to isolate. No ground issues. So having one of those, pick your flavor. Put one of those on your board, and they last a long time, Yeah,
and I think patch cables always kind of threw me too when I just grab anything, and I started getting into some of the solderless stuff. That just freed up so much, I mean, well,
Are you saying?
Well, no.
Are you saying no good on that?
We're not talking. No. We're not. I'm not talking George L. I'm talking next level stuff, Yeah, no, solid. The way the evidence ones connect, it's pretty solid. I mean, there's some cool demonstrations you could check out about how strong the solid core copper cable is, and so yeah, thinking having to quickly dissect a problem, and it's usually a cable that's not pushed in all the way, or you have to tweak it a certain direction. I think if you just start off with solid cables and get it done from the get-go, I think it'll save you a lot of trouble. So a lot about cables, but I don't know. That's what's feeding your whole signal chain. So I think it's important. Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, if there's a problem with your guitar rig, well, okay, 99 times out of 100, it's the damn cable. It's the cable. The speaker cable came out of the amp a little bit, or out of the cabinet, or something on your board, and that's why I'm not now. But I must confess, I never tried the evidence. The evidence makes quality stuff, so maybe they've made a better mousetrap. But for me, I got to use the soldered cables. And the other, just taking that a step further, I get my boards professionally done because I suck at soldering, and I'm bad at. I'm not good at tracking down ground loops and little things. So Friedman's done my boards for 20 plus years, and I just trust those guys to go through, do a great job. And my boards go to Japan, which is hot and humid all summer, and some of the venues we play, it's just sweaty and gnarly, sometimes, because Japanese have a very advanced, super high-tech society. For some reason, air conditioning isn't one of the things so a lot of the places that we play are hot as hell, and I can't believe that there's not more problems with oxidation and stuff in the boards. But so solid, soldered cables, professionally built boards that are by somebody that you really trust, and then a little bit of maintenance every couple of years. Going through Deoxit is your friend. Going through every jack, spraying them out, because it's amazing how I had an amp once that was in Japan for a few months, and then on a tour, and then it stopped over in Hawaii because I was doing a one-off in Hawaii on the way home, and I think it was on the Hawaii gig that it started to malfunction a little bit, and when I got it back to LA, I had Sir look through it, and he went, "Oh, the effects return jack is totally oxidized." So, and it's just the weather.
Yeah.
You know, it's the humidity and stuff. So if you're in a humid climate, know that that's a thing. And you got to go through and do the maintenance and have it clean and stuff.
Hey, Pete, when you're traveling, the tape, does that ever come off because of the heat?
Velcro.
The Velcro, yeah. Because sometimes I've seen like Velcro actually. So are you strapping
boards?
your pedals down? Yeah. How
I
do you?
use Dual Lock, which is the 3M real, industrial strength stuff. Yeah, and I've never used anything else other than Dual Lock because that's just what. And another thing you can do with Dual Lock on a board, actually, if you're flying a lot, because sometimes even like with Dual Lock, you push a pedal down or whatever, everything's cool. You got your nice new board, and then you fly overseas and you pull it out, and the pedals are all off because somebody like threw it from like 2 stories off a plane or something. It's happened to me where I've seen, and you're like, I can't imagine the amount of force it took to drop this thing so that came off of the Dual, but it's happened. So I actually, if you know that stuff is not going to move and that it's cool, a little drip of glue in the Dual Lock, good thing. Yeah, like a little drip of crazy glue or whatever. That's it. Once it's Dual Lock, and next time you take it off, you're going to need new Dual Lock.
So no strapping pedals down.
Well, so there's a whole bunch of new boards.
Yeah,
out
that's
there
why
and
I'm
stuff
bringing that up. That may be for someone tuning in. That may be good to know if you have an option to actually strap the. But sometimes come off.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
I mean, you can always do that, or there's different
option.
ways to attach pedals. I've seen boards with really unique ways of like kind of securing the pedals these days. With like I just got a board. I wish I remember the name of the company, but
Acklem has the mounts.
There's like mounts that you can kind of move around with the screws.
Yes, Acklem.
Maybe it's Temple Audio.
ACLM. So you clamp them in place.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's kind of cool, But all those things to kind of keep it all solid and stuff. And then the cases are a big thing too. You got to make sure that it's in a good flyable, like to keep it. And so the ones I've been using, we were talking about this earlier, is just Pelicans. That you can get these Pelicans in all sizes now that have wheels and handles, and you can roll them through the airport. It's great. But just have a custom company foam those out. And in LA, it's easy to find. You either go to A&S or Dragon cases. These different companies, and they'll custom foam any Pelican to really fit your board and make like a little pocket underneath for the cables and stuff that go underneath the board. However you want to configure the foam. But those good molded, waterproof, super tight Pelicans are great for flying pedals.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Take 2 boards. Do you have a backup?
Oh, so that's a really good question. So in Japan recently, what we did, because actually the other guitar player in the band that I tour in over there had an incident on the 3rd gig where he was down for the last 3 songs. Something happened with his switcher went out, and that it was a little bit catastrophic. Like in an arena, he ended up plugging it, but he was out for like a song, and it was a drag. And so what we did was we got helixes. From line 6, and we dialed them in. Just made like 5 presets on each one that were really close to our main sounds, And I even loaded IRs into the helixes that were like the cabinets that we really use. So I loaded up a 212 closed back with G12H cream back style speakers, which is what I actually hate. That's my Sir cabinet, and we plugged those things in once you dialed them in and stuff like that. We plugged them in, and then we went back and forth, went out and listened to the PA in the arena. And it was like the crew all kind of went wide-eyed and was like, "That sounds really good. It's good." Well, and that's the danger, because I don't want to. I want to use my amps. I love the amps, but that's the danger. Is that it's like, why do we spend all this money to cart that stuff? Because they've gotten really good. It's true. But so I would say the greatest new one, backup, Surefire, is the little Line 6. I was going to actually say this for one of my sleeper pedals, but the new Line 6 HX Stomp, which I just did a video of it. It sounds amazing, man. It's like this big. It's like the size of a Strymon Big Sky or something. And it's a full-blown thing. So it's like you could have that on your pedal board, right? And use it for delay and reverb, let's say, or something like that. Or maybe just a jack of all trades kind of effector. But if everything went out, even if your whole board went out or your amps go out, you could pull that thing off, throw it on the floor with an AC adapter, run it right to the PA, and the gig goes on. Because it's a full-blown modeler in a pedal that's this big. So that's a great Surefire, just make a few presets that, I could get through a gig if I just had this plugged into the, It's a really killer little pedal, kind of like game-changing.
Wow. Funny enough, I never counted how many shows I played in my life. It's, a fair amount, some shows. And I never, ever had any issues with any pedals or cables or anything ever. And I kind of feel like I'm cheating somehow. I don't know. It's like, it's not fair. I have my board. It's like, 6, 7 pedals and a switcher, which I think is like the most important thing on your pedal board is your power, that it's clean and no noises, no shit going on, and your switcher, because you don't want 7 pedals in a row,
Which ones do you
Can we swear in this? No. Which, just destroys your sound. Do we? Which fuck ups your sound. And that's just something you really don't want to have. You spend thousands of dollars, euros, whatever your currency is, on your stuff, and then you have like 7, 8 pedals in a row. One wah will suck all the presence out of your sound. Not all, but many wahs do. And that's one pedal. And then you have true bypass pedals, which is awesome, but you have your plugs, A jack will suck a certain amount of sound out because it's two metal surfaces meeting each other. It's not a perfect connection. So so I think a switcher is very important. Also, if like one pedal craps out, it's out of the way. You figure out which pedal it is and just avoid that pedal, and just keep on playing. So that's kind of my safe place, to make sure like I can kind of minimalize the problem and kind of sort out, what went wrong and just try to avoid that part of the pedal board. And if it all goes wrong, I have, you guys probably know Thomas Bluk, maybe you know him. Super sweet player, oh my God. And he has this amp one, which is like a pedal format amp with like a tiny little tube in it. And it's one of the greatest tiny amp I ever played. Probably the best up on this point, especially on the pedal format. So that's in my bag. If everything goes wrong, it's like, I just plug it in. If my cab's still all right, if it's not my speaker cable, I just plug that in. If it's all gone, I just, plug in DI, go. And it's ridiculously good. So, but I kind of hope I will use that one day. It sounds weird, right? I hope it will, if something goes south and I'm like, finally I can use it,
Which switcher do you use? And power, because you were mentioning how important it is. Which power, what do you recommend for switching?
I tried cheaper ones, and they, no matter if it's isolated or not, it's gonna be better than a non-isolated multi-power supply, but that's a different isolation. Voodoo Lab. Yeah, which I bought like 10 years ago, and it works. So I just, stick to it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Which pedal?
The 2 Plus, the Voodoo Lab, and the switcher is what was that? One Control, Japanese brand. Cool. Super sturdy. I like it. Works. Yeah.
I don't know if I could add more than what everyone already mentioned, so I'm gonna pass.
I think the only thing that I have to offer is with larger devices like expression pedals or large power supplies mounted underneath, I'll often use pull ties to secure them even more solidly.
The cable tie?
Yeah, or zip tie.
Zip ties?
Zip tie. And I've never had one come apart, but I use dual lock also, and I see those come apart often after having checked them.
Yeah.
So who knows what's happening.
Deoxit is a great, I'm sure everybody heard it. I don't know if they did or not, but that's such a wise call. Every once in a while, if you're bored, just unplug everything and squirt that stuff in there. Put a little behind your ears. It's great. It's good stuff.
Sorry, I was lying. I had issues. Like every 10th gig, my wah goes.
Yeah. You can't fix that. You just have to get a new one.
Which I do, and then after a year it goes.
Yeah. Replace it.
So Deoxit is the shizzle.
Yeah, you just have to make art out of them. We'll make this the last question because I'm sure people would like to see some slaying and melting of faces and get the jam going. I did like this question a lot. Let's see. This is from Archtop. He wants you to each recall he says your rig when you were 16, but let's streamline that to your first guitar rig as a teenager or whatever. Had more than just your first guitar. And when you first bought a pedal, maybe 2 pedals, you were trying to get a sound. For instance, I'll go first. I had a chance to think about this because, man, I had a great sound. It was a PV Bandit 65. I'm from northern Minnesota, so
me too.
Whole lot of
PV
PV
Bandit
and
65.
Yamaha going on up there. Don't you know now? That's what we have. PV Bandit 65 with that tone thing pulled.
Yep.
But wait, there's more. Crybaby wah pedal on, cocked halfway through, because the tone thing wasn't nasally enough. So that Boss DS1 and a Boss, you know, the bigger, the TU12 or whatever, Boss tuner, duct taped on top of the amp. And I went and played the Cloquet Armory, you know, set up my rig. And I just remember looking at it like, I have made it. I have a rig here. I think I even had a wireless unit. I don't remember that.
You probably had the Nady 101.
I think it was a Samson.
Okay.
I think it was a Samson. But anyway, so yeah, that was my first real rig that I was proud of. PV Bandit, Cocked Wah, DS1, Kramer Focus. Just.
That was the day you were christened Gear, man.
I peaked early, everybody. Next.
Well, I was lucky that my first, like, I consider real amp was a late 70s Master Volume 50 Marshall. So yeah. Before that, it was a Carvin, solid state Carvin. So maybe that I should have gone to that one. But I really didn't play, you know, like with a band or anything. So yeah, the 50-watt Marshall, and that's kind of where I learned a lot about how tube amps should sound. And that was, I didn't own a 412, so I borrowed, I think it was a Jackson. The kind with just a really heavy-duty grill. Been a lot of totally like 300, 400 watts or something crazy. So it was kind of an interesting thing, lower wattage again. And then of course the Phase 90. I think that's like, I don't know. I think that was like one of the things I really wanted first over everything, just because, you know.
That can be used today.
Yeah.
Must be funny. That's like.
Well, okay, I'll go back to the Carvin and a Ibanez Destroyer 2, which was red.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there you go.
Okay, I guess mine was a Marshall, one of those MOSFET 100s. So it was like basically like a JCM 800, but MOSFET, as I understood it. So it had the kind of like the Tom Morello amp, like the 3-knob clean and then the dirty channels. You know, it was like that, but a MOSFET version. I had a 410 cabinet, so it was like a little mini Marshall half stack, and it sounded really pretty damn good, is my memory of it. And it was so funny because about not even like a month ago, a guy wrote me an email. He got my email off my website, and he said, "Pete, did you ever own a Marshall 410 cabinet in Edmonton?" You know, because that's where I'm from, Edmonton, Canada. And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, one's come up for sale, and the guy swears it's yours, and that he got it from someone else that was the owner that bought it from you. And so, yeah, so that cabinet surfaced. I'm like, God, I want to buy it. Like, I want it back again. Yeah, I want the head, too. It's kind of cool. But
3203 or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that, well, same one. Pretty good.
I did, but that was later.
Later?
That was, 17. 16.
I was about, which is like light years when you're 16, 17. Yeah. No, that was, and I actually started playing like gigs with it, like doing like, you know, the junior high dance and stuff like that with that rig, and it was good. It was cool.
I have one. Trust me, you don't want to hear this. I'm sorry. I had it's long story short. We had some musician friends, you know, way over 50, probably over 60, and the guitar player had some serious back issues, and he had a super lean. And he was like, "I hate this. It's way too heavy. You can have it. Like, give me some money." No, I had to pay, of course, but I didn't have any money, so my dad bought it. But it was really cheap. I was like, "Okay, that's a real Marshall. Awesome. Wow. Looks old, but yeah, still looks like a Marshall." Turn it on. Clean. Deaf, so loud, still clean. It's like, that's crap. Yeah, I was into metal. I wanted to have like most gain possible on this planet, and I was like, who would want this one? And it was like, so I had a Line 6 pod, and that was my rig. Sorry.
Yes. That's awesome.
So, Gearman dude, like you, PV Bandit 65. I didn't have a Boss pedal. I had a couple of Arion pedals. Their Distortion, which was a red chorus pedal. I played my song We Did on that.
I did too.
And so that was the rig. That was the very first rig. And my first tube amp was an XV212, which was basically an X100B and a 2x12 combo. And hearing a tube amp for the first time, it was like, you know. But yeah, PV Bandit 65, that was
Love it. Love it.
My first bass, and I played it till I was 16, was the Yamaha thing that you see every December for sale in Guitar Center as part of the starter pack. It comes with a tuner, an amp, a strap, and an instructional DVD, and it was great.
Yeah, love it.
And I'm laughing out of the joyful memories it's bringing me. But I had that paired with, I think it was a 100-watt SWR 15-inch speaker, little horn,